If you watch any of my other videos on my channel, you know I'm into underwater diving videos. So what I have here is a rig that I set up so I could test all 4 cameras at the same time, the same subject, underwater while I was doing a dive. This is the Hero4, and these 3 are what I like to call China Pros. Some other people call them No Pros, but they're basically Hero knockoffs. And all of them I purchased on eBay for under $50. This, of course, the Hero4 is a lot more expensive than that. So if you can get a good look at these, the housings are very similar to the GoPro housing, but not exactly. This one seems to be the latest model, and it is a pretty similar housing to the Hero4. And this is the what they call the dive housing, not generally sold with it, but it's actually a Hero3 Plus housing that I went ahead and put this camera in just for simplicity purposes. This camera here and this camera here are both 4K 30 frames a second. And this one, the blue model, is only 25 frames per second. This is a Hero4 Silver, so it actually only records at 4K at 15 frames a second, but for the purposes of this comparison, it really didn't make that big of a difference. I was mainly concerned about how it dealt with the low light conditions that divers experience in visibility in the water that's generally about 15 to 30 feet. As you know, all of these have screens on the back, and that was another reason why I used the Silver edition for the GoPro, because it did have a screen. So this is my rig. Next up, I'm going to show you what the footage looked like and compare back and forth. So this is our side-by-side view. Lower left, we have the Hero4. Upper left is the white, and the blues down the lower right, and the silver in the upper right. This is the same orientation that we had on the camera mount. I think the most important thing to point out is that these China Pros are not native 4K. They're interpolated, so they're forcing them up to the 4K level, and so you get these weird halo effects like you see up in the upper right hand corner. Also, the GoPro video seems a little washed out, but if you use the software and the color correction features, you can really fix that a lot better. The China Pro cameras, you just can't fix them the same way that you can the GoPro video. So it's an important thing to note. If you bump the video down to 2.7K, the China Pros do a lot better, and that's really all you need on most of your dives is 2.7K. You don't really need the full 4K resolution. So the 4K does cause some other issues. You're going to see here pretty soon in the upper right video clip, there's this hash mark. See right there? That's resulting from that 4K interpolation, and it's mostly only prevalent in the low light conditions, but it seems bumping down to 2.7K solves the problem, so it's definitely related to that. Next thing I want to point out is field of view. GoPro's field of view is definitely better. Along the edge of these China Pros, it gets a little distorted. GoPro, it's clean mostly all the way to the edge, and you get a little bit more field of view with the GoPro. And especially if you got your GoPro set on Super View, you're going to get even more. Although I don't think you can use Super View when you're in 4K mode, but something to keep in mind. Overall, for the price, these cameras are pretty decent. They're about a tenth the price of GoPro, and they do basically the same thing, just not quite the video quality. Another important feature to note is the Hero4 housing does come with a touchscreen back. So this touchscreen can actually work inside this housing. However, when you're doing underwater video, you never do that. You usually just turn it on and use the buttons. It's not realistic to think you're going to use a touchscreen underwater. So the fact that none of these have touchscreens really doesn't make a difference for most scuba divers. A lot of times people have it mounted on their spear gun, on their mask, or something else like that. And so the touchscreen back is not that big a deal. And actually I found that the touchscreen back actually just screws up once in a while and starts going wacky on you. So it's actually not that good of a thing for diving. This is one of the Hero4 knockoff cameras. I call them China Pros. And as you can see, they're pretty darn similar to the Hero4 housing. Now, there are other models that are less similar. But they're basically the same design. One thing I have noticed is that all of them come with these two side buttons, and then that's to navigate the menu. And the top and front buttons are also used, but to toggle up and down through the menu, use these buttons instead of just pressing this one multiple times, which is a little more convenient than the way they do it in these, just so you know. Not that we're really changing settings underwater that much anyway. Did notice I got a small amount of moisture in the housing of this particular model. Couple drops there by those two buttons, but then I noticed there's a hair. The software on these cameras are all pretty similar. They use this same XVD sport camera firmware. It's I think one of the cameras that I have, it's the oldest one, the blue one, uses something a little older, but this version of firmware seems to be in all the latest China Pro cameras, and it's pretty basic, and you can only change what you need to change, unlike the Gopro where there's a significant amount of settings and different things that you can change, like camera on, that kind of thing. These don't have that, so they're pretty much a go for it one time and set it and forget it kind of deal. Hey, I hope you found my video helpful in comparing these action cameras. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to my channel, CSD Solutions LLC. I post a lot of underwater video because that's my thing, and that's why I'm doing this review.